A lot of people talk about cannabis flower, and basically, cannabis flower is what begins to grow after you have changed the photo period to 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And it begins with tiny little white hairs. Some people call them pistils, would be a little bit more technical than that. And they grow out of what's called a calyx. So if you look really, really closely at a cannabis flower, you'll see the hair, and this is a female flower, males are different, so all the cannabis that we care about for consumption is generally going to be female cannabis, and that will consist of these pistils growing out of a little pouch or calyx. So as a plant goes through its flowering cycle, through its 8, 9, 10-week cycle, it will grow more and more of these pistils and calyxes. It's not growing leaves too much at that point. It's not growing branches too much at that point. It's just focusing on creating these flowers, which if fertilized would create seeds, but we don't fertilize them. We allow them to grow to their full potential unfertilized, and that's what we smoke. So if you were to fertilize a cannabis plant, cannabis flower, it would begin to spend all her energy on creating seeds. But when she doesn't have a seed to grow, then she's going to focus even more of her energy on her trichomes, which are the little resin glands that grow all over the calyx pouch. So they're most concentrated on the flowers, even though a few will get to the leaves and in some cases the stalk. They're most heavily concentrated on the flower itself. So so if you smoke whole flower, it's got all of those resin glands, and those contain all the psychoactive components, but it also contains other things. Terpenes could, in a general sense, be seen as the building blocks for essential oils. They're very fragrant, they have medicinal compounds, they have compounds that deter pests, and I suspect moving forward, things like beta-caryophyllene is one of the terpenes created by cannabis, and it's actually being considered to perhaps be another cannabinoid. It actually has some psychoactivity to it. Others would be powerful antiviral components, things like that. So there's a lot that you can do with terpenes, and the reason that cannabis plants can smell like other things, like a super lemon haze smells like lemon, because it has limonene, and that is the same terpene that lemons themselves have. So cannabis has this remarkable ability to mimic other plants' aromas in its flowers. So it's a really cool thing, and you don't often see a plant that's able to mimic other terpene profiles and other plants in such a vast array of different aromas within a closely related plant group. So cannabis is really cool that way. So both the terpenes, or building blocks of essential oil aromatics, and the cannabinoids are focused in these trichomes and the little resin glands. So that can be, when you make hash. So hash can be very basic. It could be something where you're just dry sifting, or even just flicking off resin heads. In Morocco, they'll just beat a plant against a tarp and they collect the resin heads that way. So that's an example of a very low-tech method. But we have very, very high-tech extraction methods now, where we can do solventless extraction with cold. We can do hydrocarbon extraction, CO2 extraction. There are all kinds of possibilities now for harvesting these things, but really, for the general consumer, there are other components that aren't being extracted that are in the plant material itself, but most of the medicinal compounds are found in the resin glands themselves. So that's why hash or cannabis extract is so potent.